Well, hello, and thank you for joining me. My name is Reed Summers, and I'm here with you to share the newest revelation of the new message from God, which is titled, What Really Matters. We'll have a chance to both read and listen to the revelation today. This revelation was received by my father, Marshall Vion Summers, in a state of revelation. It is one of over 800 angelic encounters that he has had, each of which has brought into the world an original communication from a divine source, speaking on nearly every aspect of our lives, so needed in the world today, so relevant to what the world is facing. In the last two broadcasts, we've shared with you two revelations on war and conflict. And though the world is still obviously grappling with conflict in Europe right now, and as well as a global pandemic and so many more environmental events, geopolitical events, we thought it would be good to come back to the heart of the matter personally and individually for each of us and present to you this revelation on what really matters in our lives. We're going to listen to the revelation together, and then I'm going to share a couple passages and thoughts of my own about this message from the Creator of all life. And then I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. So if you'd like to ask a question, make a comment, please do so in the chat on YouTube or in the comments section of Facebook, and that will come to me. And I'd be happy to engage with what you'd like to share as well. This topic, what really matters, I think really hits it home for all of us. You know, as we drive to work, as we come home on a Friday, as we wake up on a Saturday, as we go through the motions of life, meet the many obligations of life, it's a pervasive question that kind of peeks above the surface at times, which is this what matters? Am I doing what matters? What really matters? You know, what is my life for? Is this all that matters? Maybe you've asked questions like that at various moments when, for whatever reason, there seemed to be a need or an opening in you to experience a greater life, a life beyond the confines of what culture and society, family, religion present to you and have since you were born into the world. And so I think we all naturally kind of come up to the surface and then go back under the waves. And then maybe a year or two later or more, a decade perhaps, come back up to the surface and go under the waves again. And so today is perhaps an opportunity to surface yourself and with others who are feeling the need to ask this question of what really matters in my life. And am I doing what matters? Or is there something else I need to be doing? And I don't think this is something that every person feels or should feel at all times. It's not something we can perpetually live with or stay, open to 100% of the time, 24/7, because you do have to go under the waves of life. You do have a work week, you do have kids to raise. Health events happen, right? Everything happens. So, but when you do surface, it is really important to take a big, deep breath of real and clean and original air to sustain you as you go under the waves of life, so that as you move throughout this ocean, you're going where you need to go. You're growing as you need to grow. Things are happening that need to happen for you. And so take this opportunity as a breath of air for you. And be with your own experience of satisfaction or dissatisfaction with what life is presenting and with what you are doing in life. I think we have to be honest. Some of us we want to take the plunge. Some of us are headed down, 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 down. And some of us are swimming up, 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 up to get light and air after being down in the dark for a long time. So I know we're all in different places. We're at different stages of life, different ages, different everything. And there are times in life when you do need to head out there and have some experiences and make some mistakes. And then there are times of life when you really need to not keep making mistakes and you need to come back to the heart of what matters in your life. And so we're all over, we're everywhere in that spectrum. So it's not as if we all need to be at the cusp of being ready to learn what it is what it is that really matters for us. We're not all right there, but perhaps we each can take something from this revelation and have an original experience of it. And I would love for you to share what that is after you hear this. I would love seeing a variety of responses to this revelation as it really struck you. I'd like to read a passage to you that speaks to kind of the outcome of all this. So we come back to what really matters, we stay close to that, and then what? Where does that lead us? And I think this passage beautifully portrays what could be the outcome of that. God saves you because you came alive, finally. You were willing to undergo a preparation, not of your own making, to really experience life as it was meant to be, doing what really matters, becoming what really matters, giving what really matters. Here your life becomes simple, it becomes powerful, it becomes determined, it becomes strong, it becomes enduring, it becomes gracious. Here you can experience the pleasure of the moment while preparing for the future. Here you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, finally. Here you can look upon people who are suffering or living in error with compassion, realizing that they are still lost living in separation. And you will have compassion for them because you will see what it takes to begin to break free from that. Here you become inner-directed and not merely someone who is swayed and pulled by all the forces of culture and persuasion, from family and friends or groups. You are no longer just merely a product of culture, stamped out to act a certain way, to think a certain way, to be a certain way. This is the way out of a hopeless situation. It is returning to what really matters. It returns to why you came into the world, a deeper memory, a deep beneath the surface of your mind, held for you by knowledge within yourself. So this is really about coming back to the heart of your own being in the world. It's really coming back to yourself and being in relationship to your deeper self, not just your superficial self, which, as this quote said, has been as if stamped out by culture, stamped in a certain way, form, with certain goals and activities. That's not who you are, surely, right? That can't be all of who you are. So this is about coming back to the whole entirety of who you are and staying with that over time so that your being can manifest in this world and enact change, movement, relationship, all the things that will naturally spring forth from your nature and design that are most natural and appropriate for you. So, welcome home. This is your deep breath of air on the surface of the turbulent seas before you go back under the waves of life. I know it's a Monday, so maybe you're already mostly under the waves as it is, but pause for a moment. Monday's not over yet. There's still time before Tuesday comes. So let's take this time now and read and listen to this original revelation received by Marshall Vion Summers, entitled What Really Matters.
Today we shall speak on what really matters in life. What really matters for you. What are the essential things that you are here to understand? The people you are here to meet, the things you are here to do. The essential things that have brought you into the world with a higher purpose. Not merely here to survive and try to make yourself happy and comfortable, compromising yourself along the way, frustrating yourself endlessly. At some point in your life, if you are being honest with yourself, you will begin to question why you are really here. As things disappoint you, as great romances turn sour and bitter, as personal goals become empty, the more that you invest in them, as your search for personal fulfillment and comfort begins to betray you to such a point that you really have no idea of who you are, why you are here, where you are going in life, as if you are adrift in this great ocean, living in separation in this world. This indeed is the beginning of what could be a great turning point. The beginning of establishing a new life that is authentic. It is based upon what really matters. It is not merely a new rendition of your old life, or attempt to create a different reality based upon your personal preferences and desires. We are speaking of something here that is the most important thing in life. More important than your goals and your comfort and security. More important than your happiness, your preferences, your ideas, your beliefs, your religions, your philosophy, if you have one. More important because they are essential to who you are. Essential to those who sent you. Essential to what you are here in this world to do and to understand, so that you are able to do what you came here to do. It is a great reckoning, you see, a great transition from trying to be happy living in separation from your source and from those who sent you into the world, to become reconnected with your source and those who sent you into the world, reconnected to a deeper knowledge within yourself, a deeper intelligence, the deeper intelligence that is who you really are. Who you were before you came into this world and who you will be after you leave. The eternal part of you, not merely a product of culture, product of ambition or resentment or political or religious persuasions. At this turning point, you have to become serious about your life. No more side journeys, you see. Trying this, trying that, new relationship, new career, new place to live, if you can afford such things, which most people in the world cannot. Heaven's waiting for you to come to this turning point in your life. Before this, everything is haphazard. Your purpose in these earlier stages of your life is to find out that nothing will satisfy you but the things that really matter. And of course, some people will spend this whole life never learning these things, living in bitterness and regret as they age. All the things they missed, somehow with a sense of unfulfillment, that they really did not do what they came here to do. They did not live the life they were meant to live. They got lost in the world and could not find their way back. Rechha Pa, this is the experience of many people towards the end of life. Whatever comforts they have established or privileges begin to mean little in the face of these things. What we are giving you here today is the source of your accomplishments, the source of your fulfillment, a deeper happiness, a sense of rightness about your life, an escape from ambivalence, an escape from endless confusion, an escape from condemnation of yourself and others. It is a great turning point, with many stages and many steps to be taken. But today we shall speak of those things that really matter. And you can see if you are really ready to concern yourselves with these, and what you are willing to give and to do to find these things, the steps you have to take, of which there are many, you see. It is not merely just a different set of ideas, not a different perspective, or a different concept about your life, certainly not. This is change at the deepest level of you, and it is the most natural change you ever attempt, because these things are waiting to be discovered within you, waiting for you to want them, need them, and be willing to prepare for them, waiting. You may think that you are waiting for God to do things for you, but we can assure you that God is waiting for you to become honest enough with yourself to consider the things we will speak of here today. What really matters can be said very simply. And as we speak of these things, you can see how they stand in contrast to the complexity of your ideas, to the confusion of mind you live with every day. For what really matters is to find the knowledge that God has placed within you, to guide you, to prepare you, and to lead you in the true direction of your life. What really matters is to find those people who will be a part of this discovery. What really matters is that you prepare and take these steps to knowledge and follow knowledge as it reshapes your life, freeing you from so much that encumbered you before, frustrated you before, endangered you before, and created suffering for you before. What really matters in the end is that you can give what you came here to give, based upon your design, not upon your wishes, based upon your deeper nature, not upon your preferences, or what you think will make you happy. For people trying to fulfill themselves, thinking what will make them happy, is the great delusion of this world. Disappointment here has the possibility of bringing you to a deeper place within yourself. Disappointment has the possibility of freeing your mind finally at last. What really matters then begins to stand in contrast to all you think is important. The importance of your ideas and beliefs, the importance of what you are attempting to do in life that you think is either necessary or personally fulfilling, stands in contrast to all the ideas and beliefs of the world, which lead people in endless directions like a maze, where there's very little promise of success or real achievement here. Everyone living in the world has been conditioned by the world, certainly. Family and culture, religion, politics perhaps, survival, difficulty, travail, and for very few, pleasure and indulgences, till they do not have the slightest idea of who they are or where they are going in life. What really matters is that you return to the purpose that has brought you here. You cannot figure that out with your intellect, for your intellect is a product of the world. It is known within you, kept for you, by the deeper knowledge within you, kept in purity, uncontaminated by the world. But to approach this and begin to understand it gradually, you have to become uncorrupted by the world. It is not simply an idea or a realization or an insight. It is a gradual discovery, you see. And it is gradual because it takes time to become uncorrupted and persuaded by the world, and to become rebalanced as a result of this. Because you need to keep your balance in the world. You are sent to be here. So this rebalancing is quite an important aspect of your preparation. And you will go through periods where you do not really understand what you're doing, because you are not following your former trajectory in life. But you have not entered deeply enough into your new trajectory to understand it very deeply. So you will pass through periods of uncertainty. You're not sure what you're doing. But something inside of you keeps moving you forward, encouraging you to go on. This is what is essential. Understanding is not essential. For real understanding comes later. It's a product of taking a true journey in life and allowing your life to be restored and renewed, and based upon the things that really matter. Who you associate really matters, because you need to be with people who can support this great turning point in your life. And be a part of it, if possible, but at the very least to support it, even if they are not following it themselves. This rules out so many people that it makes the choice of who to be with much simpler. But you will find there are very few people in your life who are responding to this greater impetus, this greater calling. So you will have to take this on within yourself. You will not be following a crowd here. You cannot tag along with others. But you will be guided by a greater power within you, which you cannot really understand, but which feels entirely natural and intrinsic within you. This really matters. Your religious ideas, your spiritual notions may have to be set aside as you proceed. For the real movement of God in your life and in the world is beyond human comprehension. You will have to leave people, places, and things as they become impediments, or as there is nowhere further for them to go in your life. You reach these junctures where they are just holding you back, and you will need to let them go gently, without hostility. This is a natural process we are speaking of. But you cannot take everything forward with you. Like climbing a mountain, you cannot take everything you like with you up that mountain. Certainly not. And this journey up the mountain is not an afternoon pursuit. It is something you are going to be following for the rest of your life. For it is a very great mountain. And as you ascend it, you will gain an understanding of yourself and the world around you that you could never have before. And you have to let go of ideas and beliefs and attachments and obligations that no longer are true for you, or perhaps were never true for you in the first place. You have to raise your children till adult age, and perhaps you have to take care of an elderly parent. But beyond this, your commitment is to follow what really matters. The movement of knowledge within you really matters. Anything you do outside of this or beyond this, in the end will not really matter, and could certainly be a great restraint and impediment for you, depending on how much you invest yourself there. Look in the world around you and you will see people trapped in their circumstances, trapped in their beliefs, trapped in their associations, trapped in their habits. Look at the consequence of this, compassionately, but objectively. Do you see real health there? Do you see real fulfillment there? Do you see real happiness? Do you see real service there? Do you see a balanced life there? This is not merely a tragedy for the poor and the oppressed. It is a tragedy for everyone living in separation. Here, as you learn to follow the power of knowledge, you also must exercise your authority in your life and be very discerning about where you are and who you are with and what is happening around you. This is not a passive attitude. You will have to be more alert, more conscientious, more self-determining than you have ever been before, just to keep up with the real movement of your life. In time, things that don't matter fall away, or prove to be a burden and an impediment. People, places, things do not really matter unless they are part of this. part of this work of God that is going on within you to restore your life. For a purpose you did not invent for yourself, but which lives within you and has always lived within you. Your religious beliefs, if you have them, do not mean anything to God, for God only moves you through this deeper power and movement we are speaking of here today. Understanding this in religious violence ends within you. If the world could understand this, religious violence would end in the world. Violence of all nature would end in the world. This is the power of what we are talking about here today. But it must happen within each person. It is a threshold of personal revelation that brings this into being, a gradual revelation. It takes you further and further out of the fog of confusion and the restraints of your former life, the mental restraints, and in some cases the physical restraints. You begin to experience a greater certainty within yourself. As things fall away, as the muddy water begins to clear, as you see more clearly, as you understand your life in the past more clearly and objectively, it is like waking up from a long and troubled sleep. And you begin to feel this movement of your life, moving you in a certain direction. Things change around you. Your good experiences and bad experiences. Things come together, things fall apart. That is the world you live in, you see. But you are on a different kind of trajectory that can adapt to these changing circumstances if they are guided by knowledge. God does not have to understand your dilemma. God just calls you and your dilemma begins to fall apart. Slowly, gradually, as you are able to take on this challenge and make these decisions and gain this clarity of mind. It is like things get boiled down over time. Many people at the end of life have reached this kind of sobriety, but they're in a state now where they can do nothing to establish a new course and direction for themselves. Yes, the trivial things no longer matter to them. Yes, the pursuits of your youth are long gone and behind them. Yes, they are beginning to see more clearly. But it is too late to do anything as a consequence of it. For you see, you are not sent into the world just to gain a greater understanding or higher consciousness. You are in the world to get certain things done in service to others and to the world. And though your service may be very specific and very local and involve only a few people, that is the direction that it is going in, you see. Do not think this is just all internal. People think that because they are unwilling to make any substantive change in their life. They just want to be happy in their old life. But there is no happiness in the old life, really, that can be sustained. But they are unwilling to face this truth, and so they keep trying to sweeten the bitter taste of their life, the emptiness, the lack of direction, and that constant feeling that they are not really getting done what they came here to get done. No amount of pleasure or therapy can erase this feeling if you are not moving in the true direction of your life. This is the real assurance that once you begin this journey, you have a chance to really continue, because there is no going back. The retreating back into safety and security or the approval of others, there is no going back. You must go forward. Transition to a new life takes quite a while, because it is such a great transition. It is the transition within you and around you. It is a new life. Not a few pleasantries added to an old life, Not an old life with a new set of clothes. Not an old life with a new facade for the world. It is a new life, built on what could last from the old life. This is how God saves you, you see. Not through religious belief, not by believing in the Savior or the Imam or the Prophet. God saves you because you came alive finally and were willing to undergo a preparation not of your own making, to really experience life as it was meant to be, doing what really matters, becoming what really matters, giving what really matters. People can argue endlessly about this, trying to protect their ideas of their investments, but it is an unalterable truth, you see. You cannot change it. It is a greater thing. It is from your soul. It is finally the beginning to remember why you came here, what you are here to do. And you discover this in stages for it to be true and uncorrupted and unadulterated and unrelated to your former goals and ambitions. Here your life becomes simple. It becomes powerful. It becomes determined. It becomes strong. It becomes enduring. It becomes gracious. Here you can experience the pleasure of the moment while preparing for the future. Here you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, finally. Here you can look upon people who are suffering, who are living in error with compassion, realizing that they are still lost, living in separation. And you will have compassion for them because you will see what it takes to begin to break free from that. Because you have taken enough of the journey yourself to see these things clearly. Here you become inner-directed, and not merely someone who is swayed and pulled by all the forces of culture, persuasion, from family and friends or groups. You are no longer just merely a product of culture, stamped out to act a certain way, to think a certain way, to be a certain way. Whether you are a rebel or conformist, you are still lost in that mold. This is the way out of a hopeless situation. It is returning to what really matters. It returns to why you came into the world. A deeper memory, deep beneath the surface of your mind, held for you by knowledge within yourself, uncorrupted by the world it is, unaltered by the world it is. Only the expression of it is affected by conditions around you, but what it is lives within you like a fire. It has never gone out. But it can be overlaid by so many things that you lose sight of it, and perhaps can never find it in the course of your life. This is the tragedy for many people. Even those who live in free countries and have wealth and social mobility, it is a tragedy for them, especially because they actually have so many opportunities to rebuild their life, a freedom that is denied to most people living in the world today. For those living in poverty or oppression, or constrained severely by family and religion, this revolution becomes more internal, but it is still very substantive in the way they experience themselves and how they interact with people around them. This is not for some elite person only, someone who's had everything in the world and now wants to have spiritual fulfillment. No, this is a gift for every person who is willing and able to look deeply into their life and to become objective about the world around them. instead of trying to seek for happiness and fulfillment in a world that is suffering and declining. You came here for a greater purpose than this. And you cannot define it. And you cannot invent it. And you cannot bend it to your wishes or make it conform to your ideas or your social conditioning. You must find a way out of these things to be able to follow it and to prepare for it. For a great truth does not come all at once. It comes in stages as the recipient develops the capacity to receive these things and to act upon them effectively. It's no mere redefinition of your life. It's not something you go tell your friends. The world ahead will become ever more unstable as the planet continues to heat, as the environment continues to degrade and to become altered. There is no really where to hide and run away now. No beautiful place to live where you are free from the condition of the world, the degradation of the planet, the social crisis of people, economic crisis. There's nowhere to be safe from that. And if you are not living the life you are meant to live, then you are never free from your own inner aggravation and frustration. Here your suffering can help you, to make you clear, to make you sober, as long as you do not condemn yourself and others. Instead of trying to escape suffering, you begin to look at it, question it. It's indicative of something more important that is happening in your life, and something that is not happening in your life. Face this. Look at it as objectively as you can. Look at your past, your recent history, your history of relationships, your history of work, your history of engagement with others. Is there a deeper thread within you? A deeper feeling? If you are willing to look at these things in the way we are describing, you can have a greater experience of what we speak of here today. A deep sobriety, a deep clarity. You may experience this for moments hidden there. Perhaps you will look at people who are acting like they are happy and you see they are not really happy. You are looking at people who are affluent, but really live like they were living in poverty. You look at beautiful places as places that trap people, who go live there at great expense, only to be unfulfilled there as well. You begin to look at things, not negatively, but clearly, in light of whether they are really real and really true. Here there is no running away into romance, no running away into living in a beautiful place, no running away into art and culture and politics, because running away is only using up your precious time, and time is your problem. You do not have a lot of it, and how it is used or not used makes all the difference. There is only knowledge in the need for knowledge at this level of understanding. There is only real honesty and compassion, or there is pretense at various levels. The picture becomes much clearer now if you can look without condemnation. You're able to see things you could never see before, know things you could never know before, hear things you could not hear before. And you begin to experience the real crisis of living in separation. That without living the life one was meant to live, without focusing on what really matters, people are in an endless state of confusion and suffering in conflict within themselves and with others. There is no remedy for this, really, except what we are saying here today. You can comfort people, you certainly can help people in need, and that is valuable. But the real restoration happens at a deeper level. God has a plan for everyone in the world. How could God of a universe of 1 billion races and more have a plan for everyone, you might ask? Well, you can certainly ask, but the answer would surpass your understanding very quickly. What's important is not understanding. What's important is participation. Being a part of this restoration, this reclamation of your true life. That is what is really important here. What is understanding if you can't do that? But something you tell yourself to make yourself feel better, or more important, to ward off self-doubt, self-recrimination temporarily. Heaven looks upon the world with this clarity, and those who can begin to gain this clarity will be in resonance with heaven, whether they be religious or not, in any faith tradition or no faith tradition. They are part of a greater coordination. Enough people in the world must be restored to this, sufficiently to alter the course of humanity. For only people who have this level of commitment, only people who are grounded in what is real and true, only people who can look upon the world compassionately and work for the world and serve others with a greater spirit, can make this great change in the world. It will not be the product of seeking pleasure or profit or warring with other people, destroying other countries, or ravaging the planet. May you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear what we are telling you here today. For if you can begin to consider this and keep considering it, and keep it at the forefront of your mind, it will begin to reveal a greater truth for you about your life, first and foremost. You do not need to be enlightened, but you do need to be prepared. You do not need to be perfect, but you do need to be able to function at a higher level. You will not resolve all issues from the past, but you will gradually gain immunity from them. You will not be able to have everything you want, but you will have what you truly need. And that would be more than enough. For the blessing lives within you, waiting to be discovered. And God has sent a new message into the world to reveal what we are speaking of here today. God has provided the steps to knowledge, given through the angelic presence that oversees this world. It's perfect for this time, for this place, for this era. Nothing else in the world can provide the restoration we speak of here today, and prepare you for your encounter with the declining world, or with races from beyond the world. The two great thresholds facing the human family at this moment.
So this was the revelation, What Really Matters, received by Marshall V. N. Summers in a state of revelation. The voice you were hearing was that of the angelic assembly speaking through him, which they have been doing for over 34 years in hundreds and hundreds of revelations just like this. It's a powerful revelation. It's challenging. I want to leave you with your own experience, and I don't want to presuppose I know what that is. I'll just share a few of my own responses to this revelation, and then I would invite you to do so as well. Let me know in the chat or the comments section how this message strikes you, and if you have any questions or anything you'd like to share. I'm speaking to you right now from San Francisco, from the cool and misty coastal avenues along Ocean Beach. And I've spent the last few days with Marshall, as well as my mother, Patricia, driving up the coastline of a beautiful state state of California here in the United States. And thinking about this revelation, listening to it along the way as well, my eyes went immediately to my surroundings. And in many cases, that was to beautiful mansions, coastal communities, multi-million dollar properties hanging on cliffs, extremely expensive vehicles, sports cars, RVs, sailboats, motorcycles. It's just so much stimulation, so many possessions. And it definitely had me wondering what really matters. Does this really matter? And I wonder for these folks who have it all. They have that amazing home and every vehicle and every experience and anything they'd ever want in life, I assume. What is the experience in the end of all of that? How do they feel when they go into their own bedroom, look in the mirror, turn off the lights, go to bed? How do they feel? And at the very end of all of that, what does it yield for them? And after seeing it almost gratuitously, day after day, it started to look almost like the crisis of separation, without enough of what really matters to guide it. Because after a certain point, it's unguided. It's just unbridled, profiting and just exploiting the earth and going after whatever has logical self-interest for each of us. And it's just over the top. It's over the top. I think California is quite well associated with being over the top in many different ways. And yet there is a crisis there, a crisis of what really matters. And I personally could feel it in the mental environment of these places. They were dazzling visually, but they felt so lifeless, so such like a dead end. Like you would get there, and all you would ever know are the other people who got there to that level of wealth. And there's very little movement. There's very little engagement with the world. There might not be very much giving to the world as well. So a crisis. And yet, in that journey of seeing all of this, I also took note of something else in the landscape. And that was the lighthouse. Beautiful lighthouses, many of them over 100 years old, perched out on rocks in the sea. And that was interesting. It's like a lighthouse. Why is that there? Well, it's not there for fun. No one builds a lighthouse for fun or for enjoyment, or as a hobby. It's there based on necessity. It's there to guide. It's there as a reference point to tell all those traveling the seas, the shore is here. The danger is there. The harbor is right here. It's almost like a reference point to guide in life. And in some ways, I look at this revelation in the same way. I look at this as a guiding light, something which I can always come back to and feel out within my life, this question: what really matters for me? And am I doing what really matters, or am I not? And if I'm not, why do I do what I do? Why am I doing this? Sometimes that is to serve what really matters, like a job. You have to go to work to earn enough to live or to provide, and that is what really matters: living, providing. But sometimes it's totally disconnected from what really matters. It's not in service to that at all. And to a degree, that's okay too. We need healthy stimulation and we need some enjoyment in life as to be healthy human beings. And so in a sense, it is also what really matters. It is serving that as well. It's almost like taking the resource of energy, money, time from the side of the fence of what doesn't matter, and it's actually bringing it over to what does. And yet, in so many cases, what we do that doesn't matter never brings anything over the fence. It actually could be an energy sink. It could be robbing what belongs on the side of what matters and taking it over to what doesn't, into other people's exploits, distractions, so forth. So perhaps this is like a lighthouse teaching that we can come back to as a reference point to tell us that is the shore. That is where you are relative to life itself and to what really matters. Doesn't mean you have to sail right to it. Doesn't mean you have to go right into harbor every time you see the lighthouse, shining at you. It just is to say that's where it is. So it helps you understand where you are. And with that, I think, take a moment even right now and just feel out, what is it you do in life that takes the majority of your energy and time? Just scan your week. Where are you in the week? Not just physically, but even mentally and emotionally, where are you? And with this lighthouse on the shore, helping to tell you where you are, what does it indicate about what really matters and what doesn't? Are you doing what really matters, or are you doing things that serve what really matter? You can see how things kind of quickly sort, right? There's not a whole lot uh, fudging the line here. It's like it's over here, it's over there, and if it's over there, it might be connected to what's over here, but or not. And so it's a nice sharp line that can be very useful when all of the attractions and stimulations and business ventures and people, relationships, opportunities come your way. It's a nice sharp line to help distinguish what something is and what it isn't, because things often pose as important when they're really not. They might be important to someone else. They're someone else's urgency, not your urgency. They're someone else's values, not your values. But without a nice sharp line within yourself to discern what is your value or another's, it can be very challenging. And often life is very hazy and very foggy, just like these beautiful headlands, covered in fog, blanketed in fog. And that's why there's so many shipwrecks on this coast. And that's why there's so many shipwrecks in life, right? Because we can't see where the coast is. We can't see where we're going and where we're trying to not go. And so perhaps a nice, clear line around what really matters could be helpful. I also think it's really important to stay with the essence of this teaching. What really matters is not a dogma, is not a list of things you should do. It's not what other people you even respect are doing. It is, as this revelation says, a sense of rightness in your life. It is being guided by a greater power within you, which you cannot really understand, but which feels entirely natural and intrinsic to you. So just doing what seems like the right or positive or spiritual or valuable thing is not necessarily doing what really matters. That itself can be a cheap replica, a postcard from Rome. It's not Rome itself, right? Rome itself is a living place. It's a dynamic place. It's a place that has existed every single moment contiguously for millennia. And so that's life. That's the powerful flow of life that knowledge within you, the spiritual mind, is. It actually is that. And so what really matters is staying connected to that. And so there's so many ways to step out of that into the cheap replica. It's like you thought you were buying a Rolex, you're not buying a Rolex, but it's on your wrist for the rest of your life. And so staying with the authentic original experience and not taking something off the shelf of someone else's life experience or something off of a social network like Instagram, a beautiful postcard image of a life, the optimal life. That's a cheap copy. That's not the real thing. And so staying with the real thing, which is within you, it's actually living in you right now. It's not something I said or did that you're seeing me see or do that you now go see and do and then show others. It's not that. It's staying with the original experience of being connected to life and the movement of life. So that is what really matters. So I think it's really important to be with that. I also want to call out, I'm going to share a passage with you here. It's important to use the mistakes and the regrets and the failures of the past to help us. Here the revelation says, your suffering can help you, to make you clear, to make you sober, as long as you do not condemn yourself and others. Instead of trying to escape suffering, you begin to look at it, question it. It is indicative of something more important that is happening in your life and something that is not happening in your life. I'm going to leave this on screen. Take a moment. Something that is happening in your life and something that is not happening in your life. And so using the past as another reference point, in a sense, it's another lighthouse if we choose to accept it and not reject it through condemnation. So we have reference points to help us navigate the open seas of the world. And what really matters can be one of them. You can add that to your toolkit. So with that, I'd like to turn and see if there's any questions, anything you'd like to share with me. This is from Paul. In coming into this world, why is it that we forgot all from the last life and must reclaim that which was lost? I hear you, Paul, and I can feel the wish and the wish that it was all just, we had it right before this life. Why lose it? Why give it all away and become lost in the world and then have to regain it all? It's exhausting, right? And I hear you. I think I hear you. At least that's how I take the question, and I resonate in general. It's a good question. My first thought reading your question was, well, we have to relate to the place and to the people here in the world. And so if you came into the world as a child and grew up with the perfect memory of where you've been and what life is beyond this world, integrating here, assimilating here, becoming a functional member of family, society could be very challenging. And indeed, the teaching in the New Message says that heaven will give us very, very small bits of the other side because they know that too much could compromise our ability to function in the world. Little visions, little glimpses, memory, just a few, just enough to keep us in this balance point of 1 foot in the world, 1 foot out of the world, lest we lose our balance. And I've seen that. Certainly we've all seen people lose their balance because they had 2 feet in the world only, and that's all they had. And the world is a powerful place with many influences. But I've also seen people try to have 2 feet in the spiritual realm while living in the world and completely lose their balance. And that is also, and perhaps even more, unfortunate. And then also, Paul, I think, it's pure biology. I mean, to come into the world, the brain of that child is just not going to be able to retain that much awareness, memory, and learn everything that it takes to become a functional human being, and integrate all of that perfectly. So it really is. It's like 2 operating systems. The computer ships with one. And there might be a second, but how it integrates with the core operating system is a process. It takes a lot of engineering. And so, it takes a long time to become a functional person in the world, and also to regain some footing or some reference point of our greater life, and then weave the 2 together. And that's just how it is. That's how the universe works. The New Message says that throughout life in the universe, in other worlds, amongst other races, if you were to be born into those worlds, you would go through a state of amnesia and you would forget and you would assimilate into that world, hopefully, and then you would have to be reached. Experiences would have to occur, practice and redevelopment would have to occur, and a life of careful integration would have to ensue from that. And this is how it is, amazingly. This is how the creator of all life and creation, life beyond form, engages with all of us who are here in the universe in form. It's an amazing vision that the New Message presents to us, which we'll have a chance to share at other times with you. But yeah, this is the reality. And so hopefully, if you're watching this broadcast, you're a modestly functional person in the world, at least, right? You have a computer, you can read and write, you can hear my words, and I'm sure you can do much more than that. And we have this platform that has taken decades to build, and so let's use it. Let's use it, and let's take the next step, which is the integration of our greater life into this life, and allowing that greater life to at least move us into position after which it can express itself through ourselves, this vehicle that we have here in the world. A question from MC. Is there guidance regarding how much time humanity has before crossing the point of no return? And while I think about your question, I'm going to There we go. Sorry, I was muted. I'm engaging with this question we have up here. Is there guidance regarding how much time humanity has left before crossing the point of no return? So I think we'd have to bound this question in with some context. Are we talking about the environmental crisis facing the world? Are we talking about the intervention by races from beyond the world? Assuming it's one of those or kind of a combination of both, we would also have to understand what is the final outcome that we are benchmarking to. I mean, are we trying to keep the world as free and as conducive to life on Earth as it is now? Or are we trying to bridge to another state of survival, which might be of a much reduced population, much reduced state on Earth? It kind of depends on the game. Is it the short game or the long game? Because if it's the long game, I don't know if there is a point of no return. Even after 99% loss on Earth, there could still be a point of redemption or future or possibility. I don't think God and the angels just give up on a world entirely. Certainly not a world like ours, considering where we are in the expressions of life in the universe that exist. Because there are worlds that are far more gone or far gone than our world is, far more prison-like, far more degraded. So I don't know if we need to think about points of no return. I think there's always an opportunity to serve the world and to generate positive outcomes. In the end, even the planet Earth will not exist one day, and the positive outcomes may have been relationship. They may have been the redeeming activity that can occur between souls, right? So even though the Earth was lost, all of that good stuff happened all along the way. Maybe that was the game, right? And it wasn't saving planet Earth or saving democracy or keeping America or we think it has been. You know, all of these memes, right? These are memes. They're thought forms. They're not reality. So I think humanity, it's late in the game, but we have a whole lot more clock left to work with and a whole lot more points to score. And the game is not over. So I hope that helps, MC. I'll give you a chance to see if there's any other questions you'd like to ask. And then I have a few things to point you to as next steps. While you're thinking, I have a passage to share with you. Let me get to it here. Okay. I'd like to share this with you. This is what it feels like to get back to what really matters. You begin to experience a greater certainty within yourself as things fall away, as the muddy water begins to clear, as you see more clearly, as you understand your life and the past more clearly and objectively. It is like waking up from a long and troubled sleep, and you begin to feel this movement of your life, moving you in a certain direction. Perhaps you've already had moments like this where the muddy waters began to clear and there was just a sense of movement. Something was happening. Your life was going somewhere. You know, for me, as I think about this reference point or this lighthouse on the shore, what really matters, for me, it's more of a sense that I come back to. It's a sense of rightness and movement, wholeness, inner peace that I have had at various moments in my life when my life really was moving as it needed to. And so when I'm not having that experience or when it's really acute, sometimes I think back to that experience. Partly it encourages me and it shows me that you've had this experience before. This is not foreign to you. And also it shows me that it is by doing the right next thing, the next right thing to do. It's by doing that these experiences naturally come back. It's almost like the experience that I want naturally results from taking the steps that I need to take that reflect the purpose that this deeper sense of self, this deeper self that I have possesses. And so as this deeper self indicates a next step, take it, and you then reap the benefits in your experience. whatever that is, relief from anxiety, better sleep, gosh, so much, right? So instead of looking for the outcome and trying to generate it, it's rather to get back on track, take those next steps, do what you sense is right to do. Because when you do, you will feel so different than you do today. That I can guarantee. Absolute guarantee for me, because it's in my experience, and I'm sure it's in yours as well. And so, in that way, there's hope. There's always hope. There's hope for the world. There's hope for each of us. No matter what our past has been, no matter what the mistakes, there is a next right thing to do. There is no point of no return, right? Because even across lifetimes, we're moving as souls. Even a lifetime that was a complete failure is just the setup for the next lifetime, which can be a success. So that's how I view it. And in that light, it's not so total. You're doing what matters. You're totally not. You're succeeding. You're totally failing. I wouldn't take that black and white approach. I would look at this much more as a dot to dot, connect the dots kind of journey. And there's going to be rough patches and smooth patches. It's all about moving in the right direction. And we will reap the rewards as we do that. And many of the things that we do really want, but pursue in the wrong ways or in the wrong places, we will ultimately be able to have because they are the natural result of knowledge within us. This is its natural expression, whether it's compassion, a sense of self-love, calm, whatever these experiences are that we most deeply need right now. I have a question from, and I apologize if I pronounce your name, Tarlock. I know I can change and that this is the time for me to change. By studying the steps to knowledge, yet I stay doing the old. How can I find the impetus to make the change? Well, we've all been here, absolutely. And it's interesting, the new message says that we know things we need to do, and we've known them for a long time. We may even be able to articulate them very eloquently to in our journaling or to another person that we're close to. We know these things, but we don't do them. And it's such an interesting anomaly, right? It's almost as if it's not enough to know up here. And what is it that prompts us to know down here? And not just, oh yeah, I know at the level of knowledge, I need to be a student of steps or something. No, to know so thoroughly that you just act. It's the action is connected to the knowing. Because as Marshall has said, knowledge that does not lead to action is not really knowledge. And so it's a great question. What is it that provides the impetus? And I'm hesitant to tell anyone what that is exactly, because I think the magic behind movement can occur in the darkest moment or in the brightest moment. It can occur at the top of the swell or at the bottom. It can occur in a ship that's fit and sailing proper, or on a shipwreck, literally trashed against the Iron Coast. I mean, it can that turning point can occur in different ways for all of us. And so I'm reluctant to say it's any one thing. I know for me, conviction for change builds. The more and more I take and exercise authority in my life, the less and less I wait for other people to do something that enables me to do what I need to do. Rather, do what you need to do something. So that has been important for me. And I'm sure there are many other students out there who would have a ton of wisdom to give here. And maybe this can go on to the community site, which is an engagement platform we have for students, as a question. What provides the impetus for us to finally make a change? And so there's not more I can scan in my experience right now, but there's a lot to offer there. So it's a great question, Tarlock. Thank you. Well, everyone, thank you for being with me and for receiving this newest revelation from Marshall Vian Summers. I'd like to share with you a few next steps. These books of the New Message from God are available for you to read. The Journey to a New Life and Living the Way of Knowledge. They're free online. I have a web address to give you after this slide. And And then there are 3 books that are forthcoming, and there are some revelations in each that are available now as well. So this revelation, What Really Matters, is a whole lot more to learn and to study behind this. You can get back to this revelation at the address on screen, as well as to the library of New Message texts. And I invite you to join me for the next 3 live broadcasts of a new, never before heard revelation. We have Raising Children next, followed by Marriage, and then Freedom from Manipulation. These revelations all come from the deep library of revelations that Marshall and his closest companions are holding and preserving and protecting. And so it's his joy to bring these forward to you. It's my joy to be a part of that. And thank you so much for being here to be the ones who received it. So I'll say goodbye to you on this strangely sunny day in San Francisco, and into the light we go. So thank you all. Thanks for being with me.